Hello and welcome to Deadline Dilemmas by Fantasy Football Scout ahead of Gameweek 24. And we've just had, since we last recorded, we've had a double game week announced. We've had some more blanks confirmed. And everyone's here to speak to you or listen to you today, Pras. And I'm going to be keenly listening.
Dude, everyone's here for you. You have been smashing every single week. And you found some variance at the perfect time because now everyone's back to captaining Haaland. So firstly, congratulations to you for nailing captaincy and just general good decision making over the last 4 weeks.
Thank you. Well, I mean, you too. We both have shot up in the last few weeks, and it's been nice. Although you say it's the best time, I mean, this double coming up would be a nice time as well. You know, if you get a big swing like the Salah Mane one or something.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, double game weeks are fun, right? I mean, we get to root for our players twice in a game week, navigate all this. A perfect example is my son has an FPL team as well, and he's ahead of me, by the way.
Oh wow!
Because all he does is on a Thursday night or a Friday, he'll come to me and say, tell me what should I do? Here's my team. And he's had Trippier and Watkins since game week 1 because my biggest conviction this season was those two players. So he's not sold them all year. But this week, like right now, I was struggling to explain to him what he should do because I just couldn't get into to this guy, then doubles, then blanks. I was like, look, just buy Bowen to Jota is fine.
You're not giving him helicopter views.
He won't have the patience or the capacity to listen to that. But thankfully, there's other people in the chat who have the capacity and patience to listen to it. So we will obviously have a helicopter view today.
Yeah, no, sounds good. And that must be so cool to be able to go to your dad, who is Pras, and ask for FPL advice.
Obviously, he doesn't know that. I'm just,
He will start to realise when he finishes top 10k this year. Start to realise.
I hope not. I'm going to catch him during this period.
Start feeding him false information.
I did tell him to sell Trent. No, I'm kidding.
No, he's still got Trent. So he didn't have Trippier.
He has Trippier now.
Oh,
so he doesn't have Trent. I was joking. I would never give him bad advice.
Does he have Darwin? You froze at the wrong time there, Praz.
I've just made him do Solanke to Darwin.
Nice. And yeah, thank you to everyone for joining us. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you go in the description below, you can get 20% off the Fantasy Football Scout members area as well. So we've got a lot to cover today, Praz. So shall we begin with the fixtures?
Just a view. Yeah, just a macro view on what has happened. This will be quick because I think people are pretty much clued on the recent changes, but we thought we'll use our friend Lego Mane's chart just to talk about how much mayhem we have coming up in the next few weeks. So basically, this is maybe one of the 2 game weeks in the next 5 weeks, which is basically a normal game week. Because after this game week, we have game week 25, which is a double for Man City, Liverpool, Brentford, and Luton. Then we have a blank for Liverpool, Spurs, and Luton. Then we have another double, which was announced this week, which is for Bournemouth and Luton. And then we have lots and lots of blanks. I think the interesting thing here, which I find very, very nice to navigate, is the teams with the better doubles, which I think people will agree is Liverpool and Bournemouth. Because Liverpool have Luton at home, Brentford away. And Bournemouth have Sheffield United home and Luton at home in their respective doubles. They're also the teams that blank the very next game week. So people will basically be in a dilemma. Shall I jump on these players or shall I get off? Shall I be a little bit more cautious? Then there are other better teams with not better teams, but they're teams with okay doubles. So like Man City is in this category. I think Everton home and Chelsea home, good. Sorry, Brentford home and Chelsea home, good double, but not as good as Liverpool's. But people will maybe attack those teams a little more because Man City also have a game in blank game week 26. Similarly, Luton is a team that people will look at, even though, their double in 25 is not great. It's Man United at home and Liverpool away. And then their double again in 28 is Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away. I would expect them to concede in all 4 of those games. But it becomes an interesting team because they don't blank in any of the weeks except game week 26. So these are some of the dynamics that people are trying to play with. Can they wildcard now to make this team that can just navigate through this seamlessly? I don't think there is a team that can do this efficiently without making sacrifices. So we will talk about wildcard 24, wildcard 26, wildcard 27, wildcard 30, 31, And there's pros and cons for each. You're not going to get that perfect strategy that people are looking for that will just say, click wildcard now, and then you can have all these players. It's just an impossible period. And then there's also free hit to discuss. So, firstly, your thoughts on doubles, blanks. Where are you trying to be a little bit more aggressive versus you think you will compromise in terms of the weeks that are coming up?
I mean, I've been looking very, very short term, if I'm totally honest. And obviously, you mentioned Liverpool, and I mean, you said you called this week a normal week, but we've got incredible fixtures for the players we want for 26 as well.
Correct.
Sorry, 25. That obviously there's the blank in 26. So yeah, attacking Liverpool, I feel like there's some risk, but I think out of all the teams, it probably has the biggest ceiling. I mean, you could argue that Bournemouth's fixtures are better, Sheffield United and Luton at home, but I just don't know if there's three players you can clearly target. I saw a thread that I retweeted yesterday from FPL Schofield, and even players like Tavernier. I think last time they played a midweek game, he was benched, for example. I think he was actually benched in the last game as well. So I think that's got the most obvious captain, possibly triple captain in Solanke. But I think this Liverpool one is the big advantage. And I'm going to look biased because I bought 3 in. But that was why I've taken the gamble. I really do see, and I guess that's why a lot of people are looking at wildcarding now, because not only do you get that Burnley at home fixture, but you obviously get the double as well.
Yep.
And if Salah's, I mean, we talked about it a lot last week and maybe the week before with Darwin and Jota, but if Salah's out, they don't feel like the best assets ever, but they don't feel far off.
Yeah,
they really
I'm
don't.
with you. There's a lot of goals there. I mean, of course, for Liverpool, if we're talking about it team by team, for Liverpool, there is this slight concern of the Chelsea Carabao Cup final right after the Liverpool game. But I still see over the next 3, and I think you're absolutely right to say that if you're going to take a hit or if you're going to attack Liverpool or Man City, this is the week to do it. And when we'll come to my team, I will share why I'm taking a -8 this week, because I want to get maximum potential from these Liverpool and Man City guys who are this week Everton at home for Man City and Burnley at home for Liverpool. Again, prime fixtures where there's a very high ceiling for points at both ends.
And there is a small risk with Man City. I mean, obviously, all our assets started in the last game against Brentford, but I mean, you're going to rely on them if you're playing through and not wildcarding. I think most teams are not going to have a bench in 26, and we're going to rely on them to start not just the double. I mean, to be honest, if they didn't start in the double, it's not the end of the world. But if they don't start in 26, you're a player down. So
yeah,
let's say 2 of your assets you bring in are then benched in 26. It's effectively a blank in itself. So
correct.
Yeah, that's why I am prioritising. Well, I've prioritised both, but I would prioritise Liverpool over City myself, apart from a certain Erling Haaland, who obviously whose minutes I got very wrong last week.
I think we all did. Now, so I mean, talking of City, everybody is now getting full minutes. De Bruyne played the whole game. I think he didn't come off.
No, he did. He played the whole game. Yeah.
Yeah, 85 minutes for Haaland. So they're pretty much back now from a perspective of owning these players. All look good options: Foden, Haaland, De Bruyne. But teams just simply cannot get to, let's say, the top 6 assets from these teams, which is Foden, Haaland, De Bruyne, Trent, Jota, and Darwin. And there's also questions on Trent, which we can obviously see what happens tomorrow in the press conference. But it's just very hard to do that, which is why the first thing people are thinking about is, why don't we just wildcard this week and get a lot of these players? So we will talk about wildcard 24 in a minute. First, I want to also discuss the very big major thing that has got people changing their chip plans and reevaluating everything, which is basically Chelsea beating Aston Villa last night. So if you go to the next slide, which is basically what happened in the FA Cup. So basically, this has completely reshaped Gameweek 29. Gameweek 29 is the week where the FA Cup quarterfinal is. We have 3 confirmed fixtures. So because Aston Villa lost last night, West Ham versus Aston Villa is confirmed, which adds to Fulham Spurs and Burnley Brentford, which was already confirmed. Now, you can see on the chart here, there's a good possibility that we just get one more game, which is either Luton versus Nottingham Forest or Man United versus Sheffield United. And this is basically contingent on the result between Nottingham Forest and Man United. And people would say on paper, Man United should beat Nottingham Forest. But last night on paper, Aston Villa should have beaten Chelsea. Stuff happens in FA Cup. So that's for me the biggest swing that can happen, because otherwise you'd expect Brighton Man City to be a blank, because that's very likely, because either Brighton win or Man City win, very likely. Even Newcastle, I think with Blackburn, you can assume that that's, upsets can happen. But Liverpool to beat Southampton, Newcastle to beat Blackburn, I think those are likely results. Similarly, Wolves and Bournemouth, unlikely that happens. So we are looking at basically 4 fixtures happening in Game Week 29 at a stretch 5. So we were all sitting with double, triple Arsenal and Palmer and thinking Game Week 29 is going to be fine. But suddenly people have started panicking about Game Week 29. The first thought people had is maybe just free hit in Game Week 29. But I'm going to make a case for why free hit 29 actually, to me, for my team and teams similar to mine, actually doesn't make sense. It could for other teams, and there has to be a team-dependent caveat for pretty much everything we say.
Just on this, by the way, it's after Game Week 26 that we know the results of that?
After Game Week 26, before 27 deadline, correct?
Yep. Okay.
So if you were to wildcard in 26, you will not know the result of the FA Cup 5th round.
Okay, so you'd have to delay wildcard to 27 when we get onto that to have these results.
If you were to do that. But 26 is slightly better if you wanted to maximize your gains, because you'll be worse off set up in 26 compared to other teams who wildcard. So, but when we come to wildcard 26, I'll talk about this. But the one thing to talk about 29, just for people who are panicking about 29, there's a few good things that have happened as well because of this. Number one, we have a keeper. A lot of people have Areola in their teams. We suddenly have a keeper. So originally we were thinking, let's go Kaminsky this week. You get a double in 25, you get a double in 28, and you could get a playing keeper. We now have a keeper for 29. This, for me, has changed my strategy for goalkeepers, and I'll talk about that. Second thing that's happened is because Villa play in 29 and Spurs play in 29, you triple up on both of those teams because you can lead up to tripling up to both of those teams, because Villa have a fantastic fixture in 26. So no matter who you have, whether you're going for Darwin, whether you're going for Jota, whether you're going for Trent, you get your triple Villa by Game Week 26 because you get Nottingham Forest at home, you get the 29 fixture, and then in Game Week 30, who do they play? Wolves at home. So you get your Villa in place, Game Week 29, no problem. Spurs, excellent fixtures after Game Week 26. So basically, you can bench your Richarlison, you can bench your Porro. You can also sell, but this is my thought process at the moment. You add Son in Game Week 27. You have your 3 Spurs ready who play Fulham in Game Week 29. Who do they play in Game Week 30? Luton at home. So you can pair. This is why if you free hit in 29, you're missing out on a better fixture in Game Week 30. And anyway, you shouldn't pair a free hit with a wild card. You should pair a dead end with a wild card and then free hit another week. So this is why, for me, those are a couple of reasons why Game Week 29 doesn't need to be a free hit, because if you have Areola, you have 3 Aston Villa, you have 3 Spurs, and Luton have a game, which is expected to have a game. You have 3 Luton, 2 or 3 Luton, done. That's good enough.
And you'd have the 3 Spurs, because there's that horrific run for Spurs between 33 and 36. I mean, obviously there could be doubles in there where it's like Newcastle City, Newcastle City, Arsenal, then Liverpool, before finishing with Burnley, Sheffield United. Obviously, there's the rearranged Chelsea game to fit in there, isn't there? But
you wildcard them out?
Yeah, that actually
in Game Week 31.
That actually really appeals to me because, I remember a couple of months ago I looked at the Spurs fixtures at the end of the season, and it's just crazy. The swing, I've never seen a swing like that, to go from 4 of the hardest fixtures, admittedly where there could be a double, although it's Chelsea away, into basically the 2 easiest games, Burnley at home, Sheffield United away.
Well, actually, sorry, you bring up Spurs.
Yep.
If you look at, shout out to Planet FPL, James, he's actually done a prediction of how Spurs' fixtures will fall. So now we're getting too forward planning. But if you were to think about it, no. Spurs might have a blank in Game Week 34 and then double in 36, 37. And this is under the assumption that Chelsea reach the semi-finals of the FA Cup. So not only because right now they're in round 5, but if they reach the semi-finals, they cannot double, which means they cannot play Spurs. This postponed fixture from Game Week 26.
I see.
It'll go in 36 and 37. So even around the tougher fixtures, you're going to load up on Spurs anyway.
Okay, because so if that happened, they'd have Newcastle away, City at home, Arsenal at home, then a double with Liverpool away in, and then a double that includes Burnley at home, and then Sheffield United away. So they're going to be quite pivotal, Spurs.
Correct. And you will basically, you could free hit them out in Game Week 34 where they will blank potentially. But this is all subject to Chelsea reaching the semi-final of the FA Cup. So I don't even before, I've maintained that we don't need to think too much about Game Week 34 yet. We barely know about 29. As I said, there could be one upset and it screws up the whole thing, like we saw last night. So right now, we have to think about how do we navigate this period from today to Game Week 30 effectively. Whether you wildcard and do it, then you need to think about your team coming out of 30. Or if you're dead ending, then you just need to see how many points are you sacrificing to the wildcarders in this period.
It's really interesting because you look at, like, I mean, like you said, it's going to be Man United, Sheffield United, or Luton Forest in 29. And I mean, we might have some good assets with United against Sheffield because we've got Garnacho, Maguire, I guess, depending on how long Martinez is
Maguire
out.
party's over. Well, you could still play Varane, you could still play Lindelof, could maybe Maguire, but I think better picks will be just Shaw.
Yeah,
Shaw has been playing. You would still have Garnacho and a Rashford or a Højlund.
Shaw's
I think
still quite expensive, but I was just trying to think because after 26, then we'd know if we're going to pile in on Luton or United players. We'd probably be piling in on Luton anyway.
Correct.
By that stage.
So what we might have to do is, I think if Man United lose to Nottingham Forest, people might wildcard in 27. Just that one game will mean people will wildcard and then free hit in 29 instead. Because then you can navigate 29 without bothering about 29. You've got the good fixtures from Aston Villa in 26. You get your Spurs because you need the Spurs later. But this is just based on one upset. If there's any other upset in the chart that we're showing, pretty sure people will wildcard in Gameweek 27 because then it makes either 29 very easy or it means 29 can be navigated with a free hit.
And we're doing it at a time when it's really hard to keep 2 free transfers especially because that Bournemouth double's been thrown in there.
Correct. So people will just say, let me just wildcard in my Bournemouth guys, my Luton guys. I free hit in 29, and then I can slowly start to lose my Luton guys again. And then I start getting. That's a strategy if there's an upset in the FA Cup, and I think that will be very popular. But right now we have to assume that what we expect in terms of probability happens. And in that case, I think there is a case to make team dependent on either delaying it to 31 or 24 or 26. So should we talk about 24 wildcard and 26 wildcard?
Yeah, let's start with 24. I'm going to put up Legomane's chart because I think it's a little bit clear. So I've seen a few people talking about wildcarding, and that would be this game week. That would be doing it today, tomorrow, or Saturday morning.
Sorry, what?
If we're wildcarding 24,
yeah,
that would be literally doing it today, tomorrow, or Saturday morning. Like, you'd have to be thinking about this quickly and making that decision.
Correct, absolutely. And look, for me, wildcard 24 is for people who are very short of Liverpool and City, right? And I don't see many teams around like this because we have known, I mean, if we are engaged, we have known about this double coming for a while. In fact, the City one was announced 2 weeks ago. The Liverpool one was announced a week ago. So here's what you have to do if you wildcard in 24. You basically get the best 6. You get KDB, Haaland, Foden, Darwin, Jota. I don't think you can get to Trent, but let's say Van Dijk or even a Van Dijk or Robertson, by the way. Robertson is expected to start on Saturday. Then you have 3 Luton. Kaminsky, you start Barkley, Doughty because they play Sheffield United this week. And after that, you keep them on your bench or play not all of them in every double, but basically your whole strategy is around Luton and the three doublers, which is Doughty, Barkley, Kaminsky. It can be others as well. You can go for Adebayo if you really want to. You have 1 Villa, not too much. So you don't have a Watkins. You just have a Villa defender, let's say Pau Torres or Moreno, if you believe in that, and no Spurs. So this is just rough ideas. We've not made a draft.
Yep.
So what this will do is it'll give you an optimal 25. You'll have the best team in 25 because you have, basically triple Luton, triple Liverpool, triple City, and you have 2 free transfers to navigate it. So then you basically gradually what you try to do is move your Liverpool assets to your other teams like Spurs, other teams like Bournemouth, and therefore and Villa. So you try to get your Spurs and Villa, and that's how you will navigate it. Biggest issue with wildcard 24 is if the FA Cup upset happens, Man United versus Chelsea, you will have to use your free hit or you're screwed. So if you're wildcarding now and you don't have a free hit or you're not willing to use your free hit in 29, that's a big problem. But that was basically 24 isn't a bad strategy for a lot of teams if you're short of your ideal Liverpool and Man City.
Something I think that sounds very viable to me, but something I don't like, and I understand why it wouldn't have it, would be you're losing those Arsenal assets for, and I know they've only got singles, they've got blank, but they've got West Ham, they've got Burnley, they've got Sheffield United and Brentford in the next 4 of the next 5. Admittedly, 3 of those are away from home, but I mean losing Saka, losing one of the Arsenal defenders, you are opening. I mean, you're obviously, I guess the upside of going for those Liverpool players I prefer, but I feel like I'd resent losing those Arsenal players. And then what if Leeds beat who are Leeds playing? Leeds are playing Chelsea, aren't they, in the FA Cup?
Good point. That's
what
another
if that then happens? You're basically becoming a Chelsea fan, because if you go all those games without Arsenal assets, and then Chelsea go ahead, I think that's going to be hard to recover from. I mean, you'll just have to pray you get the Arsenal of a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. So this was, in fact, my last con for this, that you're totally screwed if Chelsea lose or if even Liverpool lose. I mean, these are low likelihood events. Actually, maybe Chelsea is a higher likelihood event because Leeds are not a bad team. But you are...
So you froze again, Pras.
So then you're totally screwed because everybody else will be navigating 29 without an issue, and you will miss out on these key Arsenal and maybe even Liverpool players which you're ditching in 26. So this is where you're exposed a little bit, but I don't think 24 is bad because you make a lot of gains in 24 and 25 and even 26.
Yeah, and I guess the upside of Liverpool. I was quite surprised though. I saw the odds of Chelsea beating Leeds, and I felt like Chelsea, they've been very hit and miss, and I was surprised they were such clear favourites against Leeds. But maybe that's just from doing the eye test, and it's not looking at the underlying data that Chelsea they've been improving slightly. And obviously that result against Villa. I mean, I always find this funny about doubles and blanks. People, follow form a lot of the time, and then Villa get destroyed by Chelsea, and that makes Villa assets, good.
We're attacked.
Yeah. I always find that a bit strange.
I totally get that, and this happened last year where Spurs lost to Middlesbrough, and people tripled up on Spurs because they had a game suddenly in Gameweek 29, which worked out.
Yep.
Because sometimes stuff happens in FA Cup. So look, that's 24. I don't love it that you're taking in Gameweek 20 from the FA Cup games. But it's fine. There is a lot of gains. And if your team has only one City or Liverpool, I think you should think about Gameweek 24 wildcard a little bit harder. So let's go to Gameweek 26 wildcard, which actually I like a lot.
I'm interested about this one because I haven't looked much at it, but I was leaning 27, and I think you prefer 26. So
I prefer 26 only because people, if they basically not dip their toes, but take a bath in the Liverpool triple up, and they have the City triple up, and they have some Spurs in their team already, some Chelsea, because we all are carrying Richarlison's, Poros, and Palmers. Your Gameweek 26 team requires a hit or even 2 to actually field 11 players in Gameweek 26. So Gameweek 26 wildcard basically says, forget about that. You just maximize your Liverpool. You even next week get a Doughty, you get a 7th doubler if you want, or an 8th doubler if you're that inclined, and then you just wildcard them out. And then the benefit of a wildcard 26 is basically you can then add in your team triple Villa, because I talked about in 26, you want to get Villa in because they have Nottingham Forest at home. You want to get Bournemouth, so you can get 2 Bournemouth, you get Solanke, you bench a Neto, the goalkeeper, you get 2 Luton, you get 1 or 2 West Ham because West Ham also have a game. You get Son in. So Gameweek 26, you can just either bench Son or effectively even play. And he has a blank, but you have Son in place before anyone else. You have 1 or 2 Wolves in place because Wolves play Sheffield United. And therefore, you're basically well set for not only 28, but 29. And eventually you sell your Haaland for an Adebayo and basically you're good to go. That team is pretty much set.
And I suppose going for the Wolves player, because when I looked at that was the, straight away. I mean, you talked about Hwang, didn't you, the other week, who could be back for this weekend. Obviously, they play Bournemouth. If it goes ahead in 29, I mean, I think looking at that chart from before, Wolves have to beat Brighton and/or Bournemouth beat Leicester in the FA Cup 5th round.
If that happens, it's a blank, yeah.
Yeah, if that happens, it's a blank. But if that doesn't happen, then you've got that fixture against Bournemouth. So I guess having that, you're slightly hedging, aren't you, for 29 with that
Slightly,
strategy.
but you can also move your Wolves play. You have transfers after this because you have no rubbish. You're basically starting with no Liverpool, no Chelsea in 26. So you don't have those transfers that other people are making to transition. You're already, you've already got 5, 6, 7, 8 players from game week 29, and you've got doublers from 28. So I think you're decently set up. But again, you can be screwed if there's an FA Cup result. So this is the biggest, again, con. Just like 24, you're not going to get any new information between 24 and 26 apart from injuries or something else. But this just basically lets you not only maximize 24, 25, but also game week 26. This is why I like it a little bit more. If maybe you have 3 or 4 Liverpool City, just add 1 or 2 more over the next 2 game weeks, and wildcard 26 for me just sounds a little better than wildcard 24.
I like the idea of bringing Bournemouth players in and benching them, because then they become like a little bit of a Liverpool, as in because they've got the Burnley and then the double, and then I mean it's not 100% a blank in 29.
And this is why Neto is a good option on wildcard 26. You hide him against City in 26, you hide him for the blank in 29, and you play him in the double, which is frankly a much better double than Luton's, which is Sheffield United home and Luton at home.
I do like that. I think that might appeal to people as well. If people go hard on Liverpool this week, like you say, then they can wildcard out of it. Although you could just go hard on Liverpool and then do a big hit to come out of it. I guess that's the alternative. Is a big hit more valuable than the wildcard, or more valuable to keep the wildcard?
This is where I am. So when I'll come to my plan and my path, there are some big hits planned, and that's okay in certain circumstances. So wildcard 26, again, it works for teams with a lot of game week 26 blankers. You get some nice upside in 26, and you basically phase out your City, and maybe you can even start with some Arsenal into Spurs and Luton, and that would be your strategy for a wildcard 26. You could pair a wildcard 26 or wildcard 27 with a bench boost in 28. But I don't like that. I have seen a lot of people discussing a bench boost 28. And I'll tell you why I don't like it.
Okay.
Because by the time you reach game week 28, you will want to load up on Villa and Spurs. Because of the reason that I mentioned, that you've already wildcarded, you want to have Villa and Spurs for their excellent fixture in game week 30. And obviously they play in game week 29, which is also a good fixture. But what is their fixture in game week 28? Your bench boost week, they play each other. So you don't want Porro away to Villa. You don't want Pau Torres home to Spurs. So your bench is basically defenders from those two teams. Or even attackers are not that ideal. So it's a single game week bench boost with Villa and Spurs players. Maybe a double game week keeper like a Kaminsky.
So it's quite a capped upside.
It's not an ideal bench boost for me. So when people are looking at game week 26, 27, they're thinking, oh, bench boost could be a nice opportunity. I see the only good bench boost opportunity in this period is maybe game week 25. So maybe another pro for game week 24 is perhaps you can set up a team where you can bench boost in game week 25 with your 3 Luton, 3 City, 3 Liverpool. But then there's also good fixtures for an Arsenal who play away to Burnley. There's a good fixture for Aston Villa who are away to Fulham. So game week 25 does present opportunities where people can just say, I'll just bench boost and wildcard in that manner. But that also then compromises your future game week. So maybe you'll gain more in bench boost, but maybe lose some in terms of not optimally having some other players.
I think a lot of people, I mean, I was actually eyeing it up. I haven't looked into it probably enough, but just to get rid of that bench boost in 28 when we're loading up on Bournemouth players, for example. But yeah, I kind of like the idea actually of just using it in 25. I guess that then just comes back to the discussions over triple captain and whether you'll be comfortable triple captain Solanke over Haaland, which personally I don't really think it's a debate. I put my triple captain on Haaland last year and it didn't go great, but I definitely want to do it again.
I mean, if Haaland was coming up on the 60th minute and we have one more game week to look at it, then I think it's a case that you can compare Haaland 60 minutes with Solanke 90 minutes with better fixtures. But if Haaland's getting 70 plus, it's not a debate.
Also,
so
there's this thing, isn't there, where, if, let's say Haaland got injured, you could triple captain Alvarez, for example. But if you save it and then Solanke gets injured, who are you going to triple captain?
Yeah,
you're going to triple captain like Neto or... it just becomes, I don't think there is it's hard enough to pick a second Bournemouth attacker.
Correct.
So I think it's Solanke, but then if Solanke does get injured or suspended or anything like that, I think you're then going to have to wait even longer, and you're going to be delaying this decision when it's meant to be the easiest chip to play, the triple captain.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, Brentford frustrating Haaland. Harry saying in the chat. I mean, they still scored 3 goals. So, I mean, in another day, Haaland scores that hat trick or Haaland scores a brace. So, 2 games of Haaland at home. I mean, I don't think we need to worry.
It was absolute domination. And I know there was a lot of shots outside the box, but I mean, even Alvarez had like 4 within the first half an hour.
Yeah.
Haaland had that massive chance.
That 1-on-1, yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been more, and he still got 5 points. So, yeah, I don't think there's much to think about. Triple captain, I think you should be happy with 10 to 15 points. And over 2 game weeks, Haaland has at least a return in him. That gives you 8 minimum. Just go for it. Don't overthink it.
It's nice to see people sticking by Solanke after his blank. I think it's one goal in the last 4 or something.
Oh, you stop it.
One shot in the last 2.
I was actually thinking, people who went Alvarez over Solanke, how that path has worked out, where when Solanke, apart from the Solanke hat trick.
Well, yeah. There was 2 times. So at the start, I would have had 9 points off the bench for Solanke with the postponed game, and then the hat trick.
Correct.
But yes, since then, I mean, it looked like that was the worst decision ever.
And then it's been really good, because had you had Solanke, you probably would have captained him over Watkins.
I probably would have. It would have been very close. And to be honest, with my penalty love, I probably would have.
I was thinking.
Honest.
And the week before, you wouldn't have had Alvarez captain because you wouldn't
I might have had Darwin
Alvarez
captain that week.
Yeah.
Who missed a penalty.
So you know how just small things like which path you take by one different player, which is why people, they look at wildcard 24 and say, I have 7 of these players, so I'm fine. It's very different, because the transfers this wildcard team will make between now and Gameweek 29 will be very different to your transfers.
Yep.
And even just one sliding doors moment with one player, maybe they're able to get Neto, who gets a 20-pointer in that double game week in 28, where you went Kaminsky. It could change. Obviously, it can also work in reverse and it can completely backfire, but that's a...
And even which strikers we're selling, because, some people are selling, I think less people are selling Watkins now. But, if you sell Solanke, if you sell Watkins, you could sell Alvarez. I mean, who knows what Alvarez is going to do? That could be a 1-pointer in the double, or it could be, 25 plus.
Correct.
But there's not much we can do about that. But it's very true. It's very true.
Exactly. And so this is, my point of this was basically we fixate on what could I have done better? Well, not really nothing. It's just your path will lead to variances of over 20, 25 points without you noticing it, because in a single game week, it's not that big. But because that path leads you to a different transfer next time, it just becomes 25, 30 points, not because of skill or anything else, because you just chose a different 50-50, and that's fine.
Yeah, like going for Garnacho and then immediately selling him for Richarlison.
Exactly. Can you believe it? You were actually the first one going to be on Solanke, and you did it.
I know.
Incredible.
And it was your idea as well. Like, you put the idea in my head. I then went along with it. Haaland got injured. It looked like I'd made the worst decision ever. And then that route has just been,
Been great. It's been great.
Anyway, so
we come back on path.
Yep.
Gameweek 27 wildcard. I don't have much to say here, except that the biggest advantage is you will do it after the FA Cup 5th round. And you will know the quarterfinal draw, which is also very important, because by the quarterfinal draw, if let's say Chelsea draw Man City, then you can do much better planning of what Gameweek 34 and what Gameweek 37 will look like, as opposed to if Chelsea play a easy team in the quarterfinal. So you will have a much better view of the whole landscape, not 100% view, but you'll have a much better view of Gameweek 34, 37, and 100% view of Gameweek 29. So biggest advantage of Gameweek 27 is that. I suppose the slight con is that you will have to not plan for wildcard 27. You will stumble upon wildcard 27. So even in Gameweek 26, you will not be able to get a Wang or a Cunha, because you will be thinking, do I want him versus do I want a Douglas Luiz who also plays in Gameweek 29, or a Bowen or a Kudus who also plays in Gameweek 29. And I think people will look at doing that. So you will lose some points because you cannot plan for a wildcard 27, because frankly, if there's no upsets, then I still prefer waiting and not wildcarding in 27.
This was the one that first sprung to mind when I looked at it. And part of it was using the bench boost in 28. And now, to be honest, now you've mentioned bench boost 25, that's tempting. That's tempting as well. So I'm just trying to look at, like, I mean, I think the reason that it appealed to me was you just get onto Bournemouth when the good run starts, because you get, like we mentioned, that Burnley fixture, then the double, and then hopefully they get a game in the blank, but it doesn't look very likely.
Yeah.
So for me, that was probably the main reason, was looking at those Bournemouth fixtures. Probably not much beyond that. I mean, the Luton ones are okay as well. I mean, Villa at home, obviously, Villa, if we go with the Villa, aren't great away narrative, and Luton are pretty good, at home.
Look at the fixtures for other teams that you will be exposed to by not having them, because you would have sold out your Haaland, your Foden, and your other De Bruynes by this time, because you want to navigate 29-30. Who do Man City play after game week 30? They play Aston Villa at home, Crystal Palace away, Luton at home. And then, game week 34, if it's a free hit, then they play Nottingham Forest, Wolves, Fulham, West Ham. Yep. You want your triple or double Man City very quickly after that. Similarly, if you sell out of your Arsenal players, well, Arsenal also have a very good run after that, because they play Luton at home in game week 31, Brighton, Aston Villa at home, Wolves. They possibly have a double in game week 34. This is my issue. Right now, in game week, if you wildcard now or in 27, you could navigate this fixture period better than other teams, because you'll maybe make a 15-point gain. But will they make that 15 points back by getting the ideal players, by knowing the exact landscape for 34 and 37, pairing the bench boost with it, maybe the free hit on how they navigate it? I just think they can make up those 15 points then.
I'd still find it, I mean, you mentioned Arsenal, their fixtures later on, but I'd find it actually in 27, let's say Chelsea beat Leeds in the FA Cup, and we know that Arsenal are blanking in 29, I'd still find it hard to come off triple Arsenal, because they've got Sheffield United, then they've got Brentford. And obviously, if you had that plan and you had, the 3 Arsenal and Parma and Leeds 1, I guess you'd have bought your wildcard 27 plan. Most likely anyway, even though 28 in the middle, you're looking at them bringing in the Brentford. So actually, the Arsenal are putting me off quite a lot of these strategies, if I'm totally honest. Maybe I just don't want to get rid of them, but...
I mean, even in 24 and 26, you could have your Sakas and your Gabriel. You will have 2. But then you'd sell them pretty quickly. You'd sell them by 27 or 28. So you'll only get 2 game weeks out of them. But yeah, look, this is what the FA Cup game yesterday has done. It has made Arsenal blank in 29. But on the plus side, whenever there is a blank, there is always the other side, which is the silver lining. Now Arsenal will have a double later. They wouldn't have had, if had Villa won yesterday, they wouldn't have had a double. So now, therefore, it's a really nice segment where you can just have your Villa won't double after. You can have your Spurs will double after, but then they also have good fixtures. You can get rid of your Man City, your Liverpools, your Arsenals. They will all have doubles later. And you just wildcard them all back in by game week 31. That's at least my thinking at the moment, because I don't want to be stuck with a team with a lot of Luton, Bournemouth, Spurs and Villa players. Spurs are fine, but even Villa, after game week 31, Villa is rubbish. You're not going to have a Villa player after game week 31.
Doesn't that then just make free hit 29? I know it's probably the most boring route, but you could keep your Arsenal players. You don't have to go crazy on Villa players, and then just free hit in 29.
But you're not then maximizing 28 and 30. 28, because if you have Luton players...
You would have to... I mean, in that situation, I'd still attack. I mean, I think Bournemouth, you could get away with just Solanke. Probably Solanke, maybe a defender, if you were feeling frisky.
Well, if you're free hitting, then you should attack Bournemouth more than Luton.
Yeah.
Because you need Bournemouth. Bournemouth have the better double. People will attack Luton in 28 because Luton, even though they have the worst double, it's okay, a double. They have a possible game in 29. So people will triple up on Luton, where ideally, if you were free hitting in 29, you triple up on Bournemouth. We don't have a triple Bournemouth available. Neto, Solanke, and Tavernier.
Senesi, I think. Again, that thread from Schofield's really good. Like I mentioned, I did retweet it yesterday on what picks there are. But yeah, and then it might take away from having to go from so many Luton. Because let's say, I mean, I don't think Luton are essential in isolation for 25. Like I just don't think you need them. So and then you're going to be looking at what? There's one double, like you say, and then the 29 where they could have a game still. That doesn't matter because you're free hitting. And then you're not stuck with all these. So that could be another benefit. You're not stuck with
It could be. But
Luton.
Look, Man City play Liverpool, and Liverpool in 28 8,
Yep.
and they play Arsenal in 30. Now, you can say Haaland can do well in any fixture, Foden can do well in, fine, fair enough. They are tougher fixtures. Arsenal play Man City in 30. So it feels okay to get out of your Arsenal and your Man City temporarily to maximize on your Bournemouths and your Lutons and then get them all back after 30. So this is why it just makes sense to me to avoid free hit if you can. But look, it is so team dependent that it's difficult to give this is your best strategy. But this is why I don't like free hit 29.
No, it makes sense. To be honest, it does bore me. Like I know that shouldn't be a reason, but free hit in an awful blank. But then I kind of like the path of least resistance, as in not having to have complicated plans. You can just free hit in that week. I mean, it's still not going to be easy, but it means you can literally just completely ignore a boring game week. Hope to gain, 15 points, 20 points on your rivals. I mean, maybe you get lucky and gain more, or maybe you gain like 6 points. But the boring route does kind of appeal to me at this stage as well.
It sure is. But you're then in game week 26. When you land in game week 26, when you're replacing your Liverpool players, because you will have to start thinking about replacing your Liverpool players.
Liverpool will have to go. There's no doubt about that.
So you're taking out your Liverpool players, even though you're free hitting in 29. So it feels a little suboptimal. Why are you then taking out players? Did I drop?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I think we got most of it. You said it felt suboptimal to take the Liverpool players
Then
out.
You're replacing them with Villa players who play Nottingham Forest at home. Really nice fixture in 26. But then you're free hitting in 29 when Villa also have a game. So it's basically, I'm just not seeing the logic. Spurs, Son is back. Game week 27. Get Son, man. Son's got great fixtures. 27, 28. Richarlison is bang in form. You want those players in 27, 28. So why would you free hit in 29 to get Son and Richarlison and Maddison or Porro? So it's just not adding up. Luton has a double in 28. So unless, as I repeat, if things change, if suddenly Man United have a game in 29, home to Sheffield United, get Bruno, get Garnacho, get Rashford or Højlund. Lovely. Then I think a free hit appeals to me more.
Okay. But yeah, just with that, we wouldn't know till, like you say, till after 26. And there's no replays, are there, at this stage? I think the replays are scrapped in the later rounds.
Nothing.
So we're not going to have
one shot, we'll know everything.
Yeah. So at least we won't have that repeat of last night where we have to wait all that time just to know our Arsenal players are blanking, for example.
Exactly.
Okay. So what other strategy would you say that covers all of it? I mean, I guess there's going to be a lot more, but...
Well, no. I mean, look, wildcard, these are the 3 windows, to be honest. I mean, you could wildcard in 24, 26, 27 with all the knowledge. I don't think 28, because if you're wildcarding 28, might as well do it in 27. By the way, one other thing about 27, you'll have to go 0 Man City against Man United. And as a Man United fan, I know how much they smash us when we go to the Etihad.
Which game was that, sorry?
Game week 27.
Yeah.
Man City play Man United at home.
Okay.
It's at home, isn't it? I think I'm right.
I've got way too many tabs open here. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
So Haaland is captaincy option that week. But if you wildcard in 27, you'll be very tempted to go no Man City, no Arsenal, no Chelsea, no Liverpool. That in itself sounds a little bit strange, right? I mean, you're wildcarding, no more wildcards left. You're taking out clearly the 3 best teams in the league, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. You're also not getting Chelsea, which have the clear best fixture run after game week 31, because they'll have 2 doubles to come. Doesn't feel right. So this is one little con of game week 27 wildcard, where there is still a lot of engineering you'll need to do later. So are you avoiding a little bit of engineering between 28 and 29 to do a lot more after game week 30? So this is where I am.
I think that was the dream for most of us, was just to get through this period, as in the game weeks beginning with the 2, get beyond 30, and then have all our chips for those final 2, or I mean, possibly there's 3 double game weeks. But yeah, that was the dream. But that dream has died, unless we just hope there's all these upsets and just we could just plow through, try and get as close as you can, and then hope there's a load of upsets. But how do you know which ones?
Or you be open to hits, or you be open to a few hits, because what I'm trying to say is, if you take 3 hits between now and game week 29, in my case, there are 5. So spoiler alert, But out of my 5, 2 are luxury hits. So I don't count them as hits.
Should
It
we
should
go
be
to your
okay.
team and do like a live example as it was?
Sure, let's do that.
Cool.
My team I did this Trent to Trippier move, which was obviously silly before they announced it on a bloody Saturday that they have a double. So that has
That was
changed.
so good. No, not that you sold Trent, but I woke up feeling sorry for myself and that was the best start to the day.
Maybe it works out. I mean, I was 9 points up on doing the Trippier move, so maybe it works out. But now I have a different path to other teams that have, like yourself, which has already a TA, Jota, Darwin already set up. So I just want to, in my team, so let me read it out for the listeners. So I've got Dubravka, Gabriel, Pedro, Trippier. Then in midfield, Saka, Foden, Richarlison, Jota. And then in attack, Solanke, Haaland, and Watkins. I am benching Palmer. So I'm ready for the pain again. I benched Foden this week. No problem. It is what it is.
I wasn't going to mention that part.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm over it. I had still a good week. I still had a decent green arrow. So, okay. So this is what I'm thinking. If I do Solanke to Darwin, a lot of people will be thinking about this. Should I do a Solanke or Watkins to Darwin? Because you probably need that player back. So you're basically doing a hokey cokey for 2 weeks, which is basically Solanke to Darwin this week. You get Burnley at home, Brentford away, Luton at home, and then you get Solanke back playing Man City at home in Gameweek 26. Why do you get him back? Because you probably need him because you need to field 11 players in Gameweek 26.
Yeah, you probably got the front line that everyone's going to want in a couple of weeks if they don't have already. I mean, I think it's quite a popular front line, that 3.
Correct. And they will want to get out of it for 2 weeks and then get back to that player. Now, some people will have the same decision with Watkins. Can they do Watkins to Darwin and then back to Watkins? Watkins, for me, is a tougher one to do the hokey cokey with because Watkins has higher potential, theoretically, than Solanke. Maybe not, but he also has better fixtures. Basically, he has Man United at home, Fulham away, whereas Solanke has Fulham away and Newcastle away, which in years gone by has been a tougher fixture. Now it's a little easier. But look, Villa better team than Bournemouth. So I'm just going to say Watkins slightly higher potential. But you could do this with the Watkins as well. So in my particular case, I don't see this as a hit. I don't see Solanke to Darwin and then back to Darwin as a hit. Because for me, Darwin has one extra game and his fixtures of the 3 that I said, Bournemouth at home, Burnley at home, Luton at home, Brentford away, are easily 4 points better than the 2 that I mentioned for Solanke, which is Newcastle away and Fulham away. So for me, this is a luxury hit. I can choose not to do it or I can do it. I enjoy watching Liverpool. I want to enjoy watching Liverpool. I want to root for my player 2 times. I'm going to do the hit. So that's my first hit. Or actually, these are 2 hits because I'll have to do a hit this week and I'll have to take a hit for him back. That's my 2 hits of the 5 that I talked about. Another hit that I'm going to do is a lot of people were thinking of doing Kaminsky as their goalkeeper. The thing with Kaminsky was you would get a double in 25, you'd get a double in 28, and you could have a potential for a game in 29 because had Aston Villa won last night, you would have no keeper. So Kaminsky would solve this thing with having 3 extra games. That problem has gone now in the sense that Areola has a game in 29. Areola has a good game in 26. So now I'm thinking, instead of going Kaminsky, can I make 2 transfers for keepers? So I'm thinking I go Alisson this week, and then I do Alisson to Neto in Game Week 28. So now I'm basically making 2 keeper transfers, which people will say, you're an idiot. Why are you making so many keeper transfers for hits? Well, simply because Kaminsky's double versus Alisson's double, I back Alisson over Kaminsky any day in terms of a clean sheet potential when he's playing Luton at home and Burnley at home. Neto's double, when he's playing Sheffield United at home and Luton at home, I back him to do any day better than when Kaminsky is playing Crystal Palace away and Bournemouth away. So therefore, I'm willing to take this luxury hit. I can easily just go Kaminsky now, but I'm willing to take that 1 extra hit to get Neto later because I think I will make up the 4 points more. So that's 3 hits that are luxury hits that I've talked about, which people don't need to do.
I mean, I really like those moves. And I think I got accused of talking about goalkeepers too much last year, but just during blanks and doubles, I mean, obviously bringing in Alisson is perfect because when he blanks in 26, you've still got a goalkeeper you've still got a playing goalkeeper, haven't you? Because you'll have
in 26, yeah.
26,
Areola plays
yeah.
Burnley.
Whereas if you bring in Trent, you're then going to have, I'm guessing you wouldn't then have 11 players out unless you do another hit immediately.
I can't have a Liverpool defender now because of bloody Konza. So Konza was going to be my player in Gameweek 26 that I would play, but now I don't have that. So if I don't, so now I have Konza who's a problem, I have Porro who's a problem, and if I bring a Liverpool player, that's 3 players that are a problem. Instead, if I bring Alisson, I don't have that problem because Alisson can hide behind Areola when Areola plays, I'm pretty sure it's Burnley, at Brentford at home in Gameweek 26.
Yeah, I mean, I like both. I think the goalkeeper rotations always make sense. And then, I mean, it depends what you think of Darwin. I mean, I'd love that move, Solanke to Darwin and back. I was really confident he was on penalties, then he missed the penalty. So in my mind, I've bumped him down. I think I've got him like 50% for a penalty, just making up numbers. I don't know where you sit with that. I mean, Szoboszlai's out, so it must be a straight shootout between Darwin and McAllister.
Yeah. I don't know. I think regardless, he's a good pick. And do I expect him to score 8 points more than Solanke in this period? Yeah.
It could be a lot more than 8 as well.
I could be wrong. Sorry?
It could be a lot more than 8 as well. And
it could be more, it could be less, but I'm willing to take that gamble for the upside because I don't think the one extra game and the 2 home fixtures to Burnley and Luton for me are worth it for the gamble. So that's my 2 luxury hits. Or 3 luxury hits.
I like him. And I like what you said. Also, I like what you said about being able to then watch Liverpool play because that's actually one of the reasons I went for Jota a couple of weeks ago when you did. Because I was looking at all these plans, but I was like, there's no way on earth, if Salah's out, I'm going to go without Jota in that double game week. I mean, I've got too many memories of like the double game week, with Salah and Mane. I mean, there's been a couple, haven't there? There's the one where Mane got injured. Yep. There was the one where Mane got 26 points. I want as many. And to be honest, if I didn't have Trent, I might even look at Diaz as a third, even though I think his place, I mean, if Salah came back for the end of the double, his place is probably the most risky there.
Yeah, and look, these are rotation risks, right? We know what we're getting into.
They're going to go quickly as well.
Yeah, and they're going to go quickly. You're just literally getting them for 3 prime fixtures. Brentford away, maybe not a prime fixture, but Burnley at home, Luton at home, the 2 relegation teams, I'm going to do that. So, but then there's a third move because I can't get to Alisson for free. I can either do Trippier to Walker. So I have then my set of 3 Man City as well.
Yeah.
I can do Konza to Doughty, or I can do... No, I can't do Konza to Doughty. I can do Porro to Doughty.
So you swap a Blanca for a Blanca, as in a 26 Blanca.
Yeah, so that's okay because my team, I'll just have to make an extra defensive transfer later. But most likely I'm going to do Walker and Alisson and Darwin in. So that gives me 6 for 25. It gives me give me 6 for 25. Then in 26, I will take out Jota. I'll take out Darwin for back to Solanke. And Jota will go to Douglas Luiz, maybe, or Bowen, or Kudus, or Ward-Prowse if Paqueta is out and Ward-Prowse is on penalties, something like that. 27, Foden will become Son. Then 28, Alisson will become Neto, as I had mentioned. Haaland will become Adebayo, which is a strange move, but he will fund Salah in Game Week 30. And then in Game Week 29, let's say Solanke will become Tony. That's the rough plan. And then this should give me an 11.
I like how that's a rough plan when you've literally got the entire thing mapped out. And I forgot how aggressive you are with hits. One player
injury. Tomorrow, if Klopp says Jota is injured, I'll probably wildcard tomorrow, right? Because then my team looks really bad for this week. If there's another problem and a player that is supposed to play in Game Week 26, I lose tomorrow. Let's say, who's the player I'm heavily relying on to play in Game Week 26? Foden. Or even a Saka, he has some kind of an injury, I'll have to wildcard in Game Week 26. So I think we'll have to be flexible with this, and probably the path that I've just said I won't do, but I will avoid some luxury hits. Maybe I won't do Alisson to Neto in Game Week 28 and play Areola home to Burnley. That's possible, so I'll avoid the hit. That's where I am.
I'm just going to say Jota's not injured because I've noticed a couple of times we've said something hypothetically and then someone's taking it seriously. So that I'm assuming there's not been any news on Jota anyway, Pras.
No, there hasn't.
No,
I'm just hypothetically saying.
And don't will it into existence either.
Correct. No. So Harry's right. This strategy gives me 2 hits this week, one hit in 26, 1 or 2 hits in 28.
It's not actually that many when you're considering we're talking about
20 points, in hits.
Yeah, because people are looking at, using their big chips. And this would navigate it pretty much perfectly. So
I would have to get a little lucky in terms of how so if there's an upset, then people will be wildcarding. Anyway, I don't need to get into it, but if people start wildcarding in 27 and I've taken -8s and -4s in 26, then I've thrown away 12 points and then wildcarding in 27, whereas I could have just done a wildcard 26. But I think a lot of people will be in that position. You just have to go with it and see what is the most probable outcome, and then you change accordingly.
Yeah. So I think the immediate take from this is you're happily going for a third Liverpool. You're comfortable with doing hits, and you'll adjust on the fly as you do.
Correct. I think hits could work out, and people shouldn't be afraid of 3-4 hits. So sorry for that warning. Normally we don't subscribe to hits because 4 points are precious, but when there's 2-3 doubles on the horizon and there's a blank on the horizon and you want to get the best players with the highest potential, maybe sometimes they're okay.
Nice. And Haaland definitely captain?
Haaland definitely captain this week. I mean, early kickoff, we should even know, hopefully by City team has been fairly easy to get. Can you imagine in the Aguero days if you had the City team? I mean, it would have been so boring.
It would have been a cheat code.
Yeah.
It was just pure gambling. There was
exactly.
no one
We used to gamble on Aguero starting or not.
Yeah, people looking at bibs. Who was wearing bibs? Like gambling on him and Kolarov, for example, as well. Do you remember him?
Exactly. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think we should have it. And if Haaland's starting, there's no reason to go against him, even though Liverpool have very high ceilings this week.
Yeah. And to segue into my team, I was going to wait until, any possible team news. And I got scared that Haaland's just going to keep rising. I ate into the conspiracy theories, bought Haaland the other night, and he's not risen since I bought him. But yeah, I've done, so I had 2 free transfers and I've done Watkins to Haaland. It was the only route I could do with one transfer. I did look at, I could have done Alvarez to him if I looked at moving on other players, but I'm just dead set on keeping Alvarez now. Like it's only a couple more weeks.
I think you just have to go with it now because I think we were talking before the stream. One of the games is again Brentford, and he basically likes to play this particular formation against Brentford, which is having both Alvarez and Haaland pushing, the 5 at the back to create space for somebody like Foden. Obviously, if you were such football tacticos, I would have envisaged this and played Foden. But now that we know that this is how he plays, it's a good thing to have Alvarez, Foden and Haaland in that fixture.
Well, I was going to say, I could just pretend that's exactly why I'm keeping Alvarez, but I hadn't thought of it until you told me. But that is interesting. And I found it fascinating how all the players played together. And on Scoutcast, we looked at all the minutes of players, and Alvarez was obviously right up there with incredible minutes. Obviously, we know KDB and Haaland are back now, so maybe that could change, but it didn't change in the last game. So I might as well just hold him a couple more weeks. And if anything happens with Haaland, let's say mid-double game week, no one else can react to it, and I've got Alvarez. So there's gambling there, but there's definitely upside.
Correct. And you will have to change. Let's roll forward your team a little bit. You will, in Gameweek 26, you will keep Alvarez again?
So my team, I'll read it out really quickly just for those listening, but Dubravka, Saliba, Gabriel, Trent, Foden, Richarlison, Saka and Jota, Darwin, Alvarez, Haaland, and I've also at the moment got Palmer on the bench. But yeah, the plan in 26, because I was looking at Kaminsky last night with my second free transfer, and the reasons you said, I don't need to go for it now. And also there's a slight, I don't know if there's been an update on Areola. I've heard different things. I've heard he got a knock to the head. Bringing in Kaminsky anyway, I could have ended up with no goalkeeper in 26 if if Areola was ruled out, for example. Yeah. So it would be a bit silly. So I'm going to roll definitely. And then in game week 26, if I've got 2 free transfers, I would keep Alvarez. Now it's probably why I mentioned earlier that City almost have a blank if they don't all play. This week, let's say this week in 25, Alvarez or Foden or Haaland the bench, I just plug Palmer in. It's easy this week, but in 26 I'd have no control. And because I've got 3 City and 3 Liverpool, I mean, I would sell Liverpool first. Whether I sell 2 or 3 and do a hit, like a mini wild card, I don't know yet. I could just sell 2 for free and have 11 players, but that's inverted commas, including banking on Livramento taking Burn's spot and hoping that Foden, Alvarez and Haaland all start again.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I think people will be tempted in Game Week 26 hits just because you want to get the Villa players. So I can totally see you doing like Livramento to Pau Torres for a hit or Moreno for a hit. So I can totally see it. It just makes sense. You get a better fixture and you get another extra player for Game Week 29. Hits will come. You have to accept it. If you take anything from this pod, it is that there are certain hits that will be fruitful. There are certain hits that are luxury hits.
Yeah.
But it's okay to take some hits, not because, YOLO, because they're actually optimal.
I mean, it's funny because obviously next week I'll have to use a transfer, won't I? So that I would, if Livramento doesn't play this weekend, and Ed has promised me, I mean, he said his predicted team anyway. Livramento to Pau Torres would be the exact move that I would do. If I decide, I'm going to wildcard in 26 or 27, then maybe I could look at like doing Livramento to a Doughty or something and be a bit more aggressive in the short term. I mean, actually, then I'd have to do 2 moves. So I might have to do Kaminsky and Doughty or something. But I think my plan, it's because I don't really have to do much this week. I'm kind of trying to delay it as much as possible. So it's been really good talking out your ideas. Just on captain before we finish, I mean I did have it on Darwin, but I've bottled it. I just don't think when I captained Darwin the other week, we talked it through, didn't we? And that the alternatives were Saka and Palmer, and they weren't like incredible captains. I think looking at like prediction models, they were hovering around about 5 predicted points.
Yeah.
Obviously, Haaland this week's going to be, I can't even remember, probably about 7 or something ridiculous. And obviously, we've just seen him get 85 minutes. So if we also know he's going to start, like we get confirmation he's going to start, and also my thoughts on Darwin's penalties have gone down because of him missing one. Obviously, I was at 100% in my mind back then. So, yeah, I don't think there's it's a silly gamble to make, to be honest.
I think the time for captaincy, the upside in captaincy is slightly, people like me hate it, right? I don't do it. And I don't know why. Maybe it's also because I've got it wrong. I got Saka wrong versus Palmer. I got this week wrong Haaland versus Watkins, even though I wasn't debating Watkins as much. I would have probably done Solanke. So in theory, actually, I got 3 points extra.
Yeah.
But I just don't, I'm happy. I'm happy to make gains in the other 10 players or 11 players, if you will. And so, okay. I mean, it's going to be probably Haaland triple captaincy next week. Game week 26, again, Haaland. 27, home to Man United. I think it's still Haaland.
And then Solanke.
Then it's Solanke. Game week 29, maybe Son.
It was something I wanted to discuss, actually. So I'm glad you brought it up before we finish. But it basically is, because obviously something with blank and double strategies would be to pick the best captains. But it is basically just Haaland until you go for Solanke. What was the week you said, Son?
29.
Oh, 29, of course. So, yeah, as long as we've got those players. And you mentioned Foden to Son in like 27. Was it 27?
Yeah.
27, yeah. I think that was the week I'd roughly penciled that move in as well, to go for Son and Richarlison double up.
Correct. I just think it just leads you to take a few hits, get your Game Week 29 team out, and then you wildcard 31, not 30.
I love that people...
Team dependent.
People have been buzzing to watch this, and you really push the hits. I do like it. But I think there's merit in it, because I think you can easily waste chips. And I think you've not talked like crazy hits. You've not been like minus 16s, anything like that. This is lots of consistent hits. And
I repeat, 3 of my 5 hits are luxury hits. You don't have to do Solanke to Darwin. You save 2 hits. You don't have to get Alisson to, or basically Dubravka to Alisson to Neto. You can just get Kaminsky, save another hit. 3 hits are completely luxury hits. Up to you if you want to do it or not. And obviously your team is different. Everyone needs to decide based on their own team. Some people can't get to an Alisson this week because they already have Trent and they want to get the attackers. Fair enough. Then get Kaminsky. But I'm just saying it could be worth still going for Kaminsky because he has 2 doubles. Think about it. Don't be scared of hits.
Yeah, the goalkeepers, I mean, because they're so random, you're just gaining fixtures for those hits. So I really like that. And I'm also really glad Baker said it's his average week, because I almost name checked him when I said about doing -4s every week. You've just become Baker.
Correct. And look, Bateman makes a point. If I still had Trent, I probably, because I would have had my 3 Liverpool, I would have probably looked to do just one hit for Kaminsky, and maybe get a Porro down to Doughty. So I would have still done a hit, but maybe not -8s and bigger things. I would have still taken a hit, a -8 or something in Gameweek 26. We are talking either I would have taken 3 hits or 5. But I would still be taking, if I'm in this strategy of navigating through this period, chasing upside. I podcast with Late Riser every week. I have to use the term. I want to get 2 Bournemouth players for their really exciting double, which is Neto and Solanke. I want 3 Liverpool and I want 3 City. That's where I'm starting from.
Yeah, and I mean, we always say team dependent. People always get the mick taken out of them for saying it, but it's true. I mean, I'm not doing hits, but if I didn't have Jota and Darwin, I would happily be doing, I would be throwing hits at it as well. So that's the only reason I'm talking about rolling and you're talking about doing hits. I completely agree with you there. But I think we've covered as much as we can it's been over an hour. So some 45 minutes.
First episode, we've done over an hour. So kudos to us. But we will be back to normal service from next week, talking about our game week and, the whole chill vibe before a deadline. But this just merited a little bit longer discussion. So hope people enjoyed it. There are 800 people in the chat. So if you can hit like, we would really appreciate it. Usually we're very late in the week, so we're a little bit underloved. But hopefully if people have tuned into this one, appreciate it, do like it. And yeah, we'll be back next week.
So I was just going to sneeze at completely the wrong time, but I held it back. But yeah, no, thanks everyone for listening in. And yeah, we'll be back next week. And hopefully everyone's got Liverpool by then, so we won't have to talk about big hits.
Absolutely. We'll all be rolling.
Nice. All right. Speak to you next week.
See ya.